Ho, ho, ho. Bet you thought we were going to take a day off, but we're not. We're back here. This is the Overtime Sports Show, December 26th. Hope everybody had a great Christmas, great holiday season. We're back here a little bit past our normal start time, but we couldn't deprive our loyal listeners, our friends, our family who are tuning into us. We wanted to bring you another great show, even in the midst of a holiday weekend. My name is Greg Gross. My co-host, Dan O'Brien, with me. We're here for the next hour and a half, as we always are, giving you the best in sports, recapping what's happened for the past week. Dan, thanks for joining me, as always. How was your holiday, and how are you?
Holiday was great. I had some family in, had some friends in. My mom makes a huge Christmas Eve Italian dinner, so we had some homemade sauce or homemade meatballs, homemade sauce with all the fishes, mussels, clams, squid, squingeel, conch, and then fresh pasta. And then we had aunt and uncles over and cousins and friends. So it was great, man. It was great. And I'm fortunate enough to have this whole week off. So that's why it's no big deal that we moved it back a little bit. But yeah, just rocking and rolling. How about yourself? Was yours okay?
Love it. Same. Christmas is good, man. A lot of time spent with family, relaxing. Of course, a little bit of football and some sports in the mix, but just great time to be around family, friends, and just celebrate the occasion and make some memories. So yeah, it was awesome. Sounds like yours was too. So that's what it's all about. But we're here to do a sports show, and there was some sports on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. We got some things to talk about. But yeah, Christmas and the holidays were good, and we got a New Year coming up too. Some sports this weekend taking place, a couple good college games, and a whole bunch of stuff to get into. But before we do that, I know you got a reveal for me, so let me see it.
Oh, yeah. So it's a team that we've been talking about. It is my New York Islanders, sir. Yeah, buddy.
You got a way of surprising me. You do. I like it.
Yeah, buddy. I got the standings. Yeah. Keep going. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, we're in the midst of football. Bunch of games that took place yesterday on Christmas Day. The college stuff we just mentioned. And here you come out with a hockey hat, which I love, but you surprised me. Yeah. I didn't expect it.
Mm-hmm. I had to give my boys some love. I got the standings up right here to the left of me. They're 16-8, 41 points, 6 points behind the team that we both hate, the Rangers. And they are 9-3 at home, 7-5 on the road, 6-1-3 in their last 10. So, I had to give them a little bit of love just because, like I said, we've talked about them throughout our shows and how they need to turn it around with that old core that they have, and I think they're rocking and rolling. So, like I said, got to give my boys some love.
I do like it. I like the love. I feel the love. We'll touch on hockey as we usually do, maybe a little bit later. But I got some close family and friends who are diehard Islanders fans like yourself, and you guys are off to a good start. There's a reason to celebrate, and there's a reason to rep the hat like you're doing. So I love it. Good stuff.
Oh yeah, had to bring it out of left field, but you got to do what you got to do. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. So I got some thoughts. I usually like to lead out with some of the games, some of the NFL action, since we're still in season. We're coming up to the final couple games. I usually like to recap what happened the night before. I certainly got some thoughts, but I feel like I'm a little bit of a hog. So I want to, in the interest of the Christmas spirit, I want to defer to you. Do you want to lead out? Do you have some thoughts? Anything that's on your mind? If you don't, I'm not putting the spot, but I want to share the spotlight and don't always go first.
Yeah, sure. So we'll start off with NFL on as we usually do, but wanted to touch on the game last night. We were
Mhm.
texting with it. It had some fantasy implications, as you know, as we talked about last week, with the guys who should start, who you shouldn't start. We had Debo Samuel, who was the last game of the night. You had two guys going against. He only had one, I believe, last night. So just really wanted to talk on that game first because I thought it was going to be a lot closer. I mean, 33-19, the 49ers at home too. I thought
Yeah.
that they would have a better showing than that. And, we talked about last week, we talked about our MVP predictions, and you were saying how this would be a coming up show to see who would get the MVP. And
Yeah.
I think you got it knocked down with Lamar Jackson because looking at Brock Purdy's numbers, 255, 4 interceptions, that's pretty
Yeah.
hideous. And he didn't
Yeah.
even play the last, 5-6 minutes because it looks like he had a stinger, is what they were talking about last night.
Yeah.
So it was just very, very interesting to watch that game because it started out kind of weird. I mean, 5-3 in the first quarter. That's a
Yeah.
weird stat. Like a baseball, it's a baseball line. And then ever
Right.
since then, the Ravens just took off. The 4 interceptions, obviously, but the Ravens took off, and it was 33-12, and it could have been even closer. But they just sacked Sam Darnold. We know how crappy he is from his days in the Jets, but I thought he was going to bring him back. That first drive, I want to say he was 5 of 7 with almost 100 yards and a touchdown, and then he started driving the next drive, and then they got it down with that pass interference. They got it down to the 4-yard line, and then he got sacked again, and then that last lollipop he just threw it up there and got
Yeah.
intercepted. So
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a huge step back for the 49ers because they pretty much have everything wrapped up, but to go against one of the top teams in the AFC, that kind of shows maybe they're not the team that we thought they were, against AFC, because AFC has been stacked, as we've mentioned throughout the shows, because of all the bunches with the 7-7 teams, 8-7 teams, all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was just an interesting game for me. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that. I'm sure you did.
Oh, I got a bunch of thoughts. It was hard to watch. We talk some fantasy on this show. We mix
Yep.
it into our shows here and there. And I know you didn't have the season you wanted. I was fortunate enough to get first round bye and had some guys go off last week when I had the bye and didn't really need them. And as luck would have it, the matchups for me weren't great this week. Sam Laporta had 3 touchdowns last week and was barely on the map this past week. And had a couple 49ers, as you know, Debo. I had their kicker Moody, and they just happened to go up against the best defense in the league in the Ravens this week. And they just, that the matchups weren't great. And the rest of my team, they tried to pull through, and it didn't have a terrible week, but just wasn't enough to get by our boy Brett. We got to give him some props. He's won our league 3 times like yourself, and he could be poised for a 4th. So I got to tip my cap to him, but I was really disappointed to see what happened with the Niners. I mean, you kind of mentioned what happened to Purdy. It's a little surprising. We talked earlier this year in some of our earlier shows and how he's still very young. He's kind of green. He's got some growing pains. I kind of think that's what we saw last night. Uh, it just looked like he was playing a very formidable defense, perhaps a defense that he really hasn't seen this year, maybe at all throughout his career. He's been tested. We know that. But this Ravens defense looks like they are probably the best in the league. And for the 49ers, I think that game was a measuring stick. It was lopsided. They looked pretty bad. Purdy with the 4 picks early was nothing good. But I don't think there's still reason to doubt them or believe that they're not going to be front runners for. They're still tied for, I think, the first round bye. It's a little interesting now. I think the Eagles and the Lions, they all share the same record. So that first round bye is up for grabs, but they're still in the conversation. And if I was a betting man, I still think they're front runners in the NFC. Now, whether or not the AFC is better than the 49ers, I think the Ravens pretty much answered that call last night in resounding fashion. But I wouldn't be worried if I was a 49ers fan. I'm disappointed as a fantasy player having some of the 49ers players on my team. I got bounced and now I'm out. But I still think the Niners, despite what we saw last night, it's a wake-up call. If anything else, I believe in Kyle Shanahan. I think he's a good coach. I still think
Me too.
the 49ers are loaded with talent. So I think that's a game where you have to learn from it. You study the film, you realize how the Ravens beat you with pressure up the middle, forcing Purdy to be reactionary, get him off his first read, and just really rattle him. I think he can learn from this, try to get some composure, and I think he'll settle down come playoff time. So I was a little bit surprised, but as you know, I took the Ravens in my pick last week. I took them getting the points +5. Didn't expect them to win outright, but am I completely shocked that they won? No, not really, because as you mentioned, I tried to call my shot last week when we picked MVPs. I think Lamar's underrated, and damn, he showed it last week, or last night rather. I really think he did.
Yeah, he did. He did really good. And going off your fact, I mean, they, like I mentioned earlier, they didn't really have anything to lose because they didn't lose any of their conference record. They showed it last night on the stat that they still have the best conference record. So losing to the Ravens didn't hurt as bad as it would with anybody else. So if they finish out, they'll still get that first round bye. But I don't think they're going anywhere else. I don't think they're going anywhere. They're still loaded on defense, loaded on offense. But it goes back to an interesting factor. I don't know if you saw, but towards the end of the game, Trent Williams was out. And I mentioned that when Trent Williams is out, when Brock Purdy, when the whole team is not healthy, meaning their four core, McCaffrey, Purdy, Samuel, and Trent Williams, they were undefeated. And you saw what happened last night. He was out most of the second half, and they lost. So it really shows the importance of the left tackle, Trent Williams.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of teams, they lose that position, and it really changes things for the quarterback, for the running game. You lose a key piece, your best part of the offensive line. It can really change your game plan and make things difficult for the quarterback, for the running back, for everybody. Yeah, I think you're right. I'm looking at the standings now, and you're right. 9-1 are the Niners in their conference. Do you know who they lost to? Do you remember by chance?
They lost to. It was whenever they were on that losing streak.
So they lost to the Browns.
Lost to the Vikings 22-17.
The Vikings, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, 22-17. So that was their only conference
you're
loss.
Right, though. I mean, 2 games left. It's probably theirs to lose that first round bye. Which would be pretty
play the Commanders and they play the Rams. So depending on what happens with the Rams this next week, either the Rams are going to be 9-7 or they're going to be 8-8, either out of the playoff hunt or still playing for it. So they should probably easily handle the Commanders, and then we'll see what happens with the Rams if they're still fighting for a playoff spot, to see if they're going to be good and to see how many starters play for the Rams or play for the 49ers. So it's going to be interesting to see if that happens. But still 9-2 in the conference. I mean, they'll be 10-2 in the conference. They should still have that number 1 seed wrapped up.
Yeah. I'm looking at the standings, and I don't have the wild card picture in front of me, but the Eagles did themselves a favor by beating the Giants, and the Cowboys. That was a good game. We could talk about that for a minute, I'm sure. I think for the Dolphins, it was perhaps their most impressive win of the season, beating a good Cowboys team. We know the Cowboys aren't quite the same when they're on the road, but they put up a good fight, and I think they knew what was at stake. They were coming into that game with the same record as the Eagles, having kind of had a little bit of resurgence, and the Eagles are on the downfall. But the Dolphins, they really needed that win. It took a lot out of them, I think. They were missing some key pieces, but that was probably, in my eyes, as impressive as a win as I've seen from them all season, because we know what they've done against really bad teams, getting those wins, but they hadn't for a while beaten a team with a winning record or in the playoff hunt. But beating Dallas, to me, showed a lot. They sort of separated themselves, in my opinion, from some of the conversation, from the Bills in their own division, maybe even a team like the Browns and even the Chiefs, honestly, too, who are not looking the same. So to me, I think in the AFC, it's definitely the Ravens, obviously, but then that second team, I think, is the Dolphins. And there were some question marks for a little while, but their win over Dallas, in my opinion, really goes a long way in showing what they can do and who they can beat.
Yeah, it solidifies them because, saying off what you said, I think it was their most important victory, because we've touched on it multiple times. They were 10-0 against teams under 500, and then they were 0-4 against teams over 500. So to win against the Cowboys, that was a huge win. Plus, not to mention, next week they play the Ravens, and the week after that they play the Bills. So they do have a pretty hard schedule the rest of the year. And finally, to step up and beat a top echelon team from the NFC, that was, like I said, I think their biggest win of the year, and it couldn't come at a better time.
Yeah, exactly. They needed it. They were missing some pieces. I think they needed some confidence. You mentioned the game to end the year, Buffalo. That's going to be a big game. The Dolphins clinched the playoffs, but the Bills are still fighting for their lives. They're in the mix now. The Browns are in a wild card, but some of these other teams are right on their heels. You're looking at the Steelers, the Bengals, the Colts, the Texans. They're just a game out. So if the Bills don't win the final game of the season, they could be in trouble depending on what they do this week. And I don't know if you know who they play off the top of their head. I'm trying to look it up.
I got it right here. Give me a second. I got it right here. They play – so the Bills, they got the Patriots, and then they go to the Dolphins. So unlucky for the Bills, it's in Miami. I think it'd be a lot harder game if it was in Buffalo last game of the year, because that's going to be close to sub-zero temperature. It's going to be snowing or at least sleet. So I think the Dolphins are benefiting that it's at home, because they're obviously South Florida. They're not used to the cold. So that's going to be I bet you the Buffalo is kind of upset that they're not having that last game at home. But, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yep, that's going to matter. It's going to be a big game for them. So, but yeah, I mean, I think what we saw, I think that cements them in that second spot right after Baltimore. And as you look at the third, fourth, fifth spots, there's been a lot of juggling in those positions. I have to be honest. I'm not just going off of record. I guess looking at the standings, I think they would be third best in the AFC. And I'm not just saying that, but really they've impressed me. And they're another team that I probably haven't given enough credit to over the season, but that's the Cleveland Browns. And I've just been really impressed with how they're staying. I want to say staying relevant, but that's sort of a slap in the face, because they're more than relevant going through what they've gone through. I think they're on, if I'm not mistaken, they're on their fourth quarterback with Flacco now.
They are.
And they've not, like I said, not just stayed relevant, but they are fully in the conversation. If the Ravens weren't the best team in the league, the Browns would probably be winning the division or tied for it. They're 2 games behind the Ravens, who are leading the league. So, I mean, it's, to me, the Browns are, I don't know if they're flying under the radar. They were for me a little bit. I think their defense has kept them in the season. And now what guys like Joe Flacco are doing, you saw the day that Amari Cooper had, their team is starting to click, and they're a team that I think could make some noise and could create some waves when they get into the playoffs. I think they are probably the third best team in the AFC for sure, just by what they've done over the last 4 or 5 weeks with Flacco at the helm, and they're just clicking on all cylinders to me.
Yeah, definitely. They've gone through some tribulations. I mean, look at Nick Chubb. I had him on my fantasy team. I picked him first round, thinking that he was going to have a hell of a year. And he goes down, what was that, week 2, week 3 against Pittsburgh with the torn ACL, torn MCL, messing up his whole knee. But it really goes after defenses win championships. I mean, look at their defense. Myles Garrett, led by Myles Garrett. I mean, he's a stud. He's a beast. And they pick up Joe Flacco off the waivers. I mean, off the bench, or off the street, as they would say. He's always been a gunslinger. He's always had that rainbow ball, that very long pass that he always is able to throw. And I mean, he was decent with the Jets, but we saw what happened to the Jets last year. The Jets were just god awful. So he probably still has some gas in the tank, as we're seeing. I mean, 368 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's nothing to scuffle over. And he's just, I want to say that he's playing a little bit better than not to lose, because if he was playing not to lose, he wouldn't have over 300 yards passing. But with that defense and just Joe Flacco, he's a smart quarterback. He knows what he's doing. And I've always thought Kevin Stefanski was a really good coach. I don't think he had the best credit. Look what he did with Baker Mayfield a couple years ago. Baker Mayfield came and they beat the Steelers in the playoffs with Kevin Stefanski. and
Yeah.
he's a hell of a coach. He knows what he's doing, and they're going Jerome Ford. I mean, you picked up Jerome Ford in fantasy, but honestly, I didn't know who Jerome Ford was. You don't know who Jerome Ford is, and look what
No
he's
idea.
doing. He's got probably close to 10 touchdowns, if I had to say. And
Yeah.
they picked up Kareem Hunt, but Jerome Ford, he's been making it happen. And Njoku's finally having a good year. He was a top 10 draft pick, I want to say about 6 or 7 years ago out of Miami. So he's finally coming to fruition. And then Amari Cooper, he was really good with Oakland, and then he was decent with Dallas, and kind of having a coming of Jesus year this year because he's back to playing really well. So yeah, they're very impressive. I don't know how far they're going to go, but it's a fun ride to watch because that defense
Yeah.
is fun, Flacco's fun, and the offense is fun.
I'm rooting for Flacco, man. He's I think about
Yeah,
our age. He's people kind of forgot about him, thought he was retired out of the league, and for him to make a comeback, and to your point, he's more than just a game manager. He's not just going through the motions. He's putting up
yeah,
300 yards a game and giving guys like Cooper a chance to set the all-time I think receiving yards record for the Browns, things like that. It's not happening by accident, by
yep,
luck. You could tell he's into it. I think perhaps he's got something maybe to prove, a little bit of I don't know if it's a chip on his shoulder, but going against perhaps his old team in the Ravens if they meet in the playoffs. I think that means a lot to him. Why wouldn't it? A big rivalry like that, a guy who's able to come in at the later stages of his career. So you could tell it means something to him. He's playing with a passion, and it could be just what the Browns need. You think about what they've gone through with Watson, giving him so much money, and that's been a bit of a circus in its own right. But of course, as any Browns fan will tell you, the quarterback position has been more than a circus for the last 20 plus years with them. So maybe a guy like Flacco, who is a steady hand, a calming presence, a guy who's been there before, has won a Super Bowl. Maybe that's exactly what they need. Somebody who can plug in and be the guy to lead the charge. It certainly seems like a really good fit so far. And I'm really interested to see what kind of waves they make when it comes playoff time.
yeah. I don't think he's per se the future, but he's definitely there for the long run this year. And depending on if he wants to keep playing, I mean, he showed that he can play more. The bad thing about the Browns is Deshaun Watson. His contract is all guaranteed, so
Yeah.
he's not going anywhere. I mean, he could go somewhere, but then, like we mentioned a couple episodes ago, he'd be dead cap, meaning he'd still be against the cap. And I
Yeah.
don't know what's going to happen with the quarterback situation, but like I said, it's a fun ride and it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch
Yeah.
guys go out there that still know what they're doing, and it's just fun. So I'm gonna root for him as well.
Yeah. I want to put a pin in that when you just mentioned Watson and his guaranteed money. There's something I think we'll touch on later. We move to some other topics, but I want to revisit money, contracts, salary caps, and things like that. So marking that down, put a
Sure,
pin in it.
make it make
Um,
it happen.
One of the other games that I wanted to just bring up, and I'm sure you probably got some thoughts as well, is I have to pay homage and kudos to the local team here, and you might have to
Yeah.
spit some fire on your local team, but I don't think you can ignore what the Bucks are doing now. They had a pretty resounding victory against the Jags this weekend. When I tuned into the game, I want to say it was 24-0, maybe 20-0. It was pretty lopsided, pretty early. Jags ended up scoring a couple points, but I did not expect the Bucks to win. I know they were coming into the game on a 3-game winning streak. Now they're on a 4-game winning streak. They're doing everything right. If you look at their record, they were 4-7 not long ago, and they were it looked like they were done, maybe going to start to play for draft position. And now they're sitting above 500. I mean, literally, they're 4-7. That record looks ugly on paper. Now they're 8-7. It's actually respectable. They're leading their division. They could end up hosting a playoff game now, which is pretty crazy. I know a lot of people have different thoughts on that, as whether or not a team like the Bucks, just because they're winning the division, if they're really worthy of hosting a playoff game. Because you look at a team like Dallas, who is not going to probably win their division, but Dallas could be going on the road to play the Bucks. So credit to the Bucks. I think what they've done is just nothing short of a miracle, clipping off 4 wins against a few good teams. They took care of business against some teams in their division that they needed to win against. Playing the Jags was not thought to be an easy game, but they made it look easy. Guys like Baker Mayfield are playing well. Mike Evans is still catching everything you throw to him. And now the Bucs have a chance, I think, to really wrap it up this weekend in the game that I'll be going to. They play host to the Saints, who are still trailing them by a game. If they win this, I think they wrap up the division and perhaps seal a first round home playoff game. So I just wanted to highlight that game. It's being here local in the Tampa market, the Tampa area. I'm not natively a Bucs fan per se, but it's hard not to root for them because they're something special right now. They're on the up and up, and it's been interesting to watch.
Yeah, definitely. And to touch on what you said, that's a whole different ball game talking about hosting a home playoff game. I mean, I understand why it's like that because they won the division, but I agree with you too. It's why would they have such a bad record and then have to have the Cowboys, who could be 12-5 or 11-6, have to travel on a road game. But like I said, that's here nor there. That's a whole different story that we could spend hours and days on that concept. But talking off of the Buccaneers, I don't know if you remember correctly, you're the one who said that the Saints were going to win the division. So I have to go ahead and bring that bad boy up to you. And
yeah,
I just think Tampa Bay is playing really, really good. I think it happens with Baker Mayfield. What he did a couple weeks ago, perfect rating, 158.6 against Green Bay, and then throwing for 283 yards against the Jaguars on Sunday. He's really playing lights out. He's looking almost like his Heisman year when he won the Heisman back in Oklahoma. So,
yeah,
teams go with where the quarterbacks go. And, right now Baker Mayfield's playing his balls off, as they would say. And to go off the Jaguars, I called it, 4 weeks ago when they played the Bengals. I said that everybody was all happy. They were 8-3. And look what happened. I mean, I really don't know what happened, but they might have got ahead of themselves. They were playing really well, and Lawrence has been forcing the ball. I think that the team got a big head on their shoulders, and I think that they've been forcing the ball. They want to prove themselves that they're the elite of the elite, and they're just not ready yet. Like I've said, multiple shows, Doug Peterson is a really, really, really good coach, but the whole team, the core, is young. I mean, Lawrence is only in his 3rd year. Etienne's in his 3rd year. They got Calvin Ridley, who pretty much is back as being a rookie after having that whole year off from betting. So they're still a very young team. They need some skilled players. They probably need another stud receiver. They need some help on the line, and they need some secondary help in the defense. And all of their holes are being brought out these last 4 weeks. So that's I've mentioned how the Jaguars, everybody loves them, but they're just not. Their holes are getting they're getting exploited because I think they're pushing the issue because they wanted to stay the elite of elite, and then they lose to the Bengals, lose to the Browns, lose to the Ravens, lose to the Bucs. I mean, those are 4 solid teams, but they probably thought they'd go 4-0 or at least 3-1 in that stretch. So it's just very, very interesting to watch them kind of decline, which I'm going to say that I like it, as you know. So
yeah, it's a tale of two cities. I mean, Bucs winning 4 in a row now, Jags losing 4. Like you said, they were 8-3, and that looks like an amazing record. People were putting them in the top, 5% of the league or whatever it is, and now you're one game above 500, 8-7. That barely looks respectable. It's just amazing how things can turn in a pretty short amount of time. And when you look at the rest of that division, 8-7, 8-7, 8-7, the Jags, the Colts, the Texans, it's like, who wants it? And honestly, I think the Jags and the Colts are both fortunate because I know the Colts were on the road this past week, but they lost to a Falcons team who is just not very good. I mean, I think the Colts are better than the Falcons, but they really needed that game, and it was an opportunity for them to actually grab that first spot in the division themselves, especially while the Texans are without C.J. Stroud. This the second week in a row. I think we've talked about him a little bit. He was my quarterback in fantasy, and I was missing him the last couple of weeks, but that guy comes back. The head coach we talk about, DeMeco Ryans. I know they're missing Tank Dell, but Devin Singletary is a guy who, we know has been a veteran presence around this league a little bit, and he's had a bit of a resurgence with them. If they get their quarterback back, the Jags and the Colts could both be in some trouble here. I think it really could be the Texans division to grab when you figure what the Jags and the Colts have done over the last couple weeks. It may slip
Yeah,
out of their
exactly.
grasp.
Exactly. If I haven't heard anything this week yet on CJ Stroud, like I said, it's only Tuesday, but yeah, if he comes back, Lawrence being iffy and kind of hurt, not 100%, and Gardner Minshew being a backup quarterback, if CJ Stroud comes back healthy, I could see the Texans, yeah, be their division to lose. I mean, I want to say last year I said that it was the Jaguars division to lose, but watching them against the Bucks and seeing Lawrence not be 100% most of the week last week, I don't know if you remember, he was in the concussion protocol and he just got cleared Saturday before they left Jacksonville to go to Tampa. So he was not practicing the whole week. I want to say that probably affected him. And it's just going to be interesting to see what happens with CJ Stroud.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking at the week ahead, Texans host the Titans, depending on, like you said, if Stroud comes back. Titans just their season's pretty much in the bag. So I'd be surprised even if the Texans didn't pull that out. The Colts host the Raiders. Raiders, we didn't really touch on this game yet, and I got some thoughts on it. We maybe could switch gears in a moment, but we saw what the Raiders did to the Chiefs, made them look human like they've looked a number of times this year. So that's not going to be a necessarily easy game, but the Jags do play host to the Panthers. So unless the Jags really, really fall apart again and somehow manage to lose 5 in a row. They could. You never know. Anything's possible. But I'm looking at maybe the Jags and the Texans perhaps having the same record coming into the last game of the season. And I'm trying to check the schedule now and see. I know the last game is all divisional games. And let me see if they don't play each other. The Texans play the Colts, and then the Jags play, I believe, the Titans. Yeah, they do. But this coming week will be. If I was a betting man, I think the Texans Jags pull out wins, and then it'll be up to them and probably conference record come the last game of the season to see who wins that division.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It really is. It's like I said a couple minutes ago. I think it's just going to come down to CJ Stroud if he comes down healthy and if he comes back. And because, like I said, I don't think Lawrence is going to be healthy the rest of the year. He had the concussion protocol a couple weeks ago against the Bengals. I thought he broke his ankle or at least tore his ACL. We talked about that when he didn't take the cart into the locker room. And, he's not going to be 100%. And then Gardner Minshew is Gardner Minshew. So CJ Stroud can come back maybe 80%. I believe that it's the Texans' division to lose just because of how their young defense is playing, how their young head coach is hungry and coaching well, and how their CJ Stroud's are playing the whole year. I mean, it goes without saying. And Singletary too. To touch on Singletary, that was a good bring up because he's running the ball like he's back at FAU and he's back at playing with the Bills. A couple of years ago when he's playing really well. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens over the next 2 weeks in that division.
You mentioned on the Jags, ETN, and he said a pretty good season, a good start to his career. I think I saw. I don't know if you know this, but did his brother just commit to
transfer to Georgia? He just transferred to Georgia. Yeah. So they're a really interesting, funny family. So his name is Trevor, and obviously, ETN is Travis. So that's a very, I guess his mom wasn't very creative.
Yeah, no.
Trevor and Travis, you just never know.
That's like your boys. You mentioned Singletary, but we know who took over on the Bills is James Cook, and he's James Dalvin Cook, and Dalvin on the Jets is Dalvin James Cook. So you want to talk about not being creative? That's somebody who picked 2 names and said, "You know what? I'm just going to run with it." Both my boys.
Hey, sometimes you just got to roll with it. Yeah,
it is what it is. Yeah,
but it is what it is.
We mentioned the Chiefs. We've talked about them numerous times throughout the year. We kind of know what their problem is. I'm kind of curious your thoughts. We know they're lacking receivers. Their defense maybe isn't quite what it was cracked up to be. But do you think it runs deeper? Do you think there's any truth to what some people are saying that they're distracted? They're too focused on the Taylor Swift shenanigans, all this other stuff, Mahomes and his wife, chumming it up in the box and things like. You think that it's really affecting their play? I don't know what to believe. Part of me thinks these guys are professionals. They deal with noise all the time, even when we don't see it in the media and the news. So part of me thinks that these guys are pros in tuning that stuff out. But certainly the way they've been playing lately and what we saw this past weekend, they didn't look good. In fact, I tuned into parts of the game, and what I saw actually looked pretty bad. Mahomes
Yeah.
looked to me visibly, I don't know if shaken is the right word or rattled, but maybe uncomfortable. I would say probably unsure. I saw him make some throws. He had a pick, I think, that eventually got overturned. To me, it looked like a legitimate pick. But he just looked like his reads were off. He looked like he was a little careless with the ball. He looked like he was just unsure of what to do compared to what we saw the first few years of his career, where he looked like he knew exactly where he was going with the ball. He looked like he had no fear. He looked like he was having fun out there, just throwing the ball up, just dominating with guys like Kelsey and obviously Hill, who's gone. You can't say that he doesn't have weapons around him. We know his receiving core is not great, but you still got an all-world tight end. You've got a kicker who's pretty money in Butker. Pacheco is back now. So you can't say that you don't have weapons. So I'm just kind of wondering, do you think it's the outside stuff that are getting to them? I don't know what to make of it. I can't imagine a guy like Andy Reid, who's been around as long as he has, would let that stuff permeate through the locker room and into the players and affect their on the field play. But it's hard to deny it might not be a factor. I'm curious your thoughts.
You just touched on it when you were talking. I was thinking about my rebuttal, and I'm 50-50. End of the day, these guys are human beings just like me and you are. So unless that they don't have any outside world impact, they don't have any cell phones, they don't have social media, they don't have Twitter, which we both know they do, but they're human beings. I mean, we put them out to be athletes, celebrities, but they are human beings at the end of the day. I mean, they can put it off and say, okay, this doesn't affect me, but it's affecting them. I mean, think of just me and you. Put us in those situations, or just our regular world. If you're working and I'm working, and something's going on in my personal life, don't you think that that's going to not have an effect on my work life, but it's going to be in the back of your head? So you're always thinking about it, and you want to prove yourself. This Taylor Swift. I mean, I saw the other day she made $1 billion on her tour, so she's a pop star. He wants to prove himself. He wants to show her that he's Travis Kelce, the best thing since sliced bread. So, all I can say is they're human beings end of the day. But then to go off what you just said, Andy Reid is Andy Reid. So he's not going to let that stuff, come into the locker room, or you think he wouldn't. And that's why I'm a little torn in between. I think it's human being, emotions, feelings, and then Andy Reid is not going to let it happen. So I think it's just a mixture of everything coming into one. It's just a blender. Everything going in a blender and then coming out in a smoothie, and then kind of just taking it how he comes and doing the best they can. And like I said, it's unfortunate because I saw an interesting stat. This is the first time that Patrick Mahomes has ever lost 6 games in a season that he's been a starter. So that's a pretty interesting stat. Yeah, pretty cool stat that I saw yesterday. So I think just a lot of stuff is, we've mentioned coming to fruition. They do have a loaded team, but they still don't really have a top receiver. And if you play the run or you double team Travis Kelce, where is he going to go? I mean, Rasheed Rice, he's had some blips of good games, but end of the day, he's not a top receiver. And we know about Kadarius Toney, all the drops and all the mess ups he's had.
What do they call him?
Everything.
What's his nickname?
He's a rapper. I don't know.
Young Joker.
Splashy. Yeah, Young Joker.
Young Joker.
Yep. So yeah, he's a clown in his own way, but
yeah.
But I just think everything's coming to fruition. I think all the outside noise, all the inside noise, Mahomes being frustrated, Kelsey being frustrated, Kelsey trying to prove himself. So I think it's just a cocktail for disaster for them. I mean, luckily for them, they're still 9-6. They still technically control their own destiny, but only time will tell. We'll see what happens.
I like that. A cocktail for disaster. That should be the name of a drink. That should be at a bar. I'll have the cocktail disaster, please.
Yep, I'll have the cocktail disaster. Yeah,
I like that.
Hey, man, I like it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
you know,
yeah,
it could be like a red color
speaking of
too.
teams that are fortunate, like the Chiefs, they are fortunate they're in the division they are in. I mean, they're the
Oh,
only
I
one
know,
that's
I
above
know.
500. But if there was any semblance of competition in there, they'd be hard pressed to win the division as easily as they usually have. But they're super fortunate in what's going on. I know we eventually got to touch on some college because there's some bowl games. Before we move away, I want to talk about the Giants just for a moment because I know you root for them quite a bit, and I had
Yeah,
myself kind of thinking. Now that their season's obviously over, it was probably over even before last week, but it certainly was after they lost to the Saints. They really needed to win out, but just looking ahead now, me being a Giants fan and you as well, I'm starting to think about next year. And at this point in the season, I think we touched on this last week a little bit that it would be nice to have some answers and to sort of know where you're headed. And sitting here today thinking about the Giants' future, it looks like they're in the fifth spot right now. Don't know if they're going to be in the cards for a quarterback, maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't know. But outside of even who they pick, I don't really know where they're going with a guy like Daniel Jones. We know he's signed for a couple years. They still owe him some big money. So he's not going
yep,
anywhere. I think to me, he's probably going to be the starter next year. I don't see any reason to hang on to Tyrod Taylor. I think they're letting him go. I was kind of disappointed that they even put him into the game this past week. And I think Dayball was asked about it, and his response was he wanted to give the team a spark, or I think he said try something different. And I was shocked about that answer because I'm thinking to myself, DeVito is different. Tyrod is not different. We already saw Tyrod Taylor. He's a journeyman quarterback. He did okay in the
yep.
game or two he was in or whatnot, but the guy, the book's already been written on him. How can you say that that's different? We've already seen that. DeVito was different. He's the guy who came in the last couple of weeks and was shaking up the team in a positive way. And here
You
it
know
is.
it.
The guy kind of struggles a little bit. Exactly. And he struggles. And then you yank him for what? I think I didn't really understand that. And it just got me thinking and puzzled as to where the Giants head next year. We still don't know the answer for Jones and who's going to be quarterback. We still don't know what they're doing with Barkley. I mean, do they franchise him again? I mean, that's only going to continue to piss him off. So I don't know if they do that. And I don't know. I don't know what they do in terms of their draft pick. Do they take Marvin Harrison Jr., feel like they got that receiver position locked up, and then what do they do after that? Just draft all offensive linemen? I mean, I'm ignoring the defensive side of the ball for a reason because you look at guys like Pinnock, Okereke, even Thibodeau, were kind of coming into his own this year. Their defense, to me, kept them in a lot of games this season and is the reason why they're not picking first or second, if you ask me. So I'm kind of putting that aside, but the offense I still think has a ton of question marks. I mean, look at a guy like Darren Waller. You know, they brought in this veteran presence, but he's an aging vet. The guy can't seem to catch anything lately, so they're probably
Yeah,
moving on from him. So the tight end is still up for grabs. Receiver could use some work. We know the O-line needs some work. The quarterback and running back needs some work. I feel like there's just way too many questions. And here we are. There's 2 games left in the season. And it's frustrating because I figured we would have had more answers right now. And as a fan, I don't know what the hell is going to happen come April. So I'm also, again, curious to hear your thoughts. Maybe you're thinking something I'm not, but I'm just still kind of confused sitting here coming into week 17.
yeah. You touched on it with Darren Waller. I'm sure you watched into the game. They didn't have a chance, but they had a little of a chance. I don't know if you saw that when they threw it to him, and he just lays down. I don't know what he's thinking, that you
Yeah.
got to get up and spike the ball. That cost them 15 seconds right there. So that was very interesting. But we spoke on this last week. If I'm the Giants, what I do is if I have the 4th or 5th pick, I would trade back and get as many assets as I can, because, like you mentioned, do we get a skilled player like Harrison, or we need more than just one player? I mean, we do need a stud receiver, and that would be a really good spot. But Daniel Jones, we've seen Daniel Jones had one good playoff game, and he got what, $100 million contract because of one good playoff game last year.
Yeah.
So he's going to be there next year. People are saying Caleb Williams might be there, Drake May might be there. They're good quarterbacks, but I think the Giants need more assets. They need more skill players. So I would trade back and try to get 2 draft picks this year, 2 first-round draft picks, or just build the capital for next year. And as I mentioned last week, going off of Saquon Barkley, I say we just give him good riddance. I mean, he's obviously a really good player, but he can't stay on the field. We talked about it last week. I want to say he's missed probably 60 to 70% of the games he's been eligible for since he's come out of Penn State a couple years ago. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he's only going to get more mad if they give him another franchise tag, or if they only give him a 1-year deal. He's going to be pissed off. He's going to hold another running back conference with all the running backs and say, "Oh, we deserve more money," this and that. So I think they move on from him and trade back, see what Daniel Jones has, because they can't cut him because of that dead cap space money, and just kind of see what they have. I mean, they still have decent receivers. I mean, Wendell Robertson's a decent receiver. Slayton's a decent receiver. Waller, I mean, maybe cut Waller, but try to give. I don't know if they still have that guy Daniel Bellinger, if they still have him, but he was decent. He was a good dude, and he had some good catches and some good games. But that's just my thoughts. I mean, they have the right coach, Brian Daboll. I love that guy. He's a good coach. He's a really, really good coach. So they have the right coach in there. They have the right coaching staff. I mean, like I said, if it was me, trade back and get assets. But that's here nor there. I mean, it's hard to tell Giants fans who pay $100 a game that we're gonna, have one more bad season and get assets, because it's hard to convince that. But you got to get the full picture, and as our friend Ryan, who's watching, you got to trust the process. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
you got to trust the process. So if it was me, I would trust the process, trade back, and get assets. So that's my 2 cents on the matter.
I like it. It makes sense. A lot of GMs like to do that nowadays. If you're not 100% sold if you can't get your guy, or you don't know who you want, then you're right. It makes sense to trade back. Let some other team who really wants somebody at X pick just get their guy, and you can reap the reward and maybe gain a couple picks from them. So I like it. I like the idea. No reason to rush into something if you don't know who you want. But yeah, I did a lot of question marks. It's not the way I wanted the season to play out. Obviously, they're missing out on the playoffs, but at a minimum, if you're going to miss the playoffs and you're picking top 5, I feel like you should know more about what you're doing. And I think there's too many question marks, but it is what it is. They got their work cut out for them when it comes on to April and draft next year. But
what
do you think? Want to move on to some college? I know you got some.
You want to do college, or are you getting thirsty?
I say we spend a couple minutes on college, and then I think we drink. You up for it?
Okay.
I want to pay homage to. I got a couple thoughts here, and I want you to keep me honest, and maybe even educate me. But want to pay homage to my alma mater, USF. Had their bowl game since we did our last show, and it was impressive, 45-0. It was a great game. They won the Boca Raton Bowl. Granted, they beat Syracuse, but 45-0 is 45-0. So wanted to give them some kudos. It was nice to see them get a win. But this is where I want you to keep me honest and maybe educate me. You spit out a lot of good information for me and for listeners several weeks back when I had some questions about the transfer portal and how that process works. And this is just something silly, but I'm just looking at all the scores here and the bowl games that took place. And I just got to ask you, you might not have a great answer, but why the hell are there so many damn bowl games? I mean, I like to give USF their kudos, but the Boca Raton Bowl, I mean, I'm looking at these others. USF or UCF played the Gasparilla Bowl. Great. I mean, California, Texas Tech, the Independence Bowl, the Bahamas Bowl. I mean, there's a Big Pen Bowl, isn't there? Like, I don't get it, man. In the day and age of everybody getting a participation trophy, people starting to kind of come around to that idea and thinking that the new generation is soft. I don't understand why there's still so many damn bowl games. And it seems like every year there's more. They're not going away. We're not getting fewer. We're getting more. And I don't get it. I'm sure it's probably all for ratings, I guess, maybe money to keep people tuned in longer and longer, make the season longer and sell tickets and merch or whatever. But to me, it's just, if I was part of the committee, honestly, if I was even part of some of these teams, I mean, how can you have pride saying, yeah, I'm playing in the Camellia Bowl, Arkansas State, Northern Illinois? What the hell is the Camellia Bowl? I don't get it. I want thoughts. Dude, I would be pseudo embarrassed if I was playing in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. What the hell? Educate me. Give me your thoughts. I don't get it.
Okay. All right. So we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Teams that all they got to do is win 6 games. So they win 6 games and they go to a bowl game.
All right, hold on.
The reason why.
Let me stop you, though. Let me stop you. Why is that the barometer? Why is it 6 games? You and I could win 6 games next year.
It's because you win half your schedule, 6 and 6. So you go to your bowl games. Hey, stay with me here.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Okay. You can go 5 and 7, but you're selected based on academic rating. So you're selected based on what your graduation rate is and how many players you get to graduate. Second reason, as you touched on, is the teams make money. The colleges make money. Everybody makes money. The sponsors make money. The schools make money. The athletic departments make money. So it's pretty much a win-win for these college teams. And the most important thing that I think a lot of these teams like bowl games is these coaches get an extra couple weeks of practices to see what their future of the team's going to be. So that's why they like it a lot. And it just allows them to see what their team's going to be in the future. It allows them to bring up all the young players, because nowadays a lot of the older players and transfer players obviously aren't going to be on the team. So it gives them a chance to play the younger players, and it gives them a chance to see what they have for the future. So, a good way that you could think of it as is a free off season for these bowl teams. So you can get extra practices, and it's still the calendar year for the football team, if that makes sense. So that's why they do it. That's why they do it. I mean, it's really, main thing is money, and the second thing is college practices and football players. I mean, college football coaches seeing what they have on their roster, seeing what their players are, seeing if they need to get more people in next year as recruiting. And it also helps on recruits coming in, because if you're getting people on recruiting visits, as I talked about, it's pretty cool to bring them to a bowl game, because you get treated like a 5-star team. You get brought in, you get all these news conferences, you just get notoriety for being in a bowl game. So I know it's kind of nonsense on the outside looking in, but that's what it's for. That's what it's mainly for.
So yeah, but my thing is, so like you said, getting notoriety for being in a bowl game. As I'm looking at it right now, let me see here. Hold on. Oh man, I just scrolled through. So 2 days from today, actually, it says at 11 o'clock in the morning. I don't know, is that right? Is that Eastern time? They play early. That's a different game, but 5:45 on Thursday, 2 days from today. North Carolina State, Kansas State in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I mean, put that, dude, you got to record that. Can you DVR that? Can you TiVo it? I mean, that's must-see TV, isn't it? The Pop-Tarts Bowl, NC State and Kansas. My point is, where I'm going with this is, you talked about notoriety. You get treated like a 5-star team if you make a bowl game. Everybody's in a bowl game. Hang on. Let me count it down here. We have the Cheez-It Bowl, the ReliaQuest Bowl, the Music City Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, Peach Bowl, 5, Liberty Bowl, 6, Sun Bowl, 7, Gator Bowl, 8, Alamo Bowl, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. There's got to be 2 dozen bowl games, 3 dozen bowl games. I mean, that's 50, 60 teams are in bowl games. The list would be shorter of who's not in a bowl game, right? Can you tell me that? I feel like that's where we are.
Your boy Coach Prime isn't in a bowl game, and your Florida Gators aren't in a bowl game. So those are 2 notoriety teams.
I guess it's just 50, 60 teams. To me, it's just too many. I don't know. I think you're right. I think the answer has got to be money. I hear your point about it. It's interesting trying to get an extra game to see what your team's made of, see what holes you have to fill. But to me, that's what the season's for. That's what the last game of the season's for. You better know that at the end of the season, not get a bowl game and get an extra game to see that. To me, I don't know. I don't get that. It just reeks of participation trophy. It reeks of trying to squeeze out more money. And it's just, to me, it loses its credibility. The bowl game is supposed to be special. You know, there's one Lombardi trophy, there's one Stanley Cup, there's one World Series pennant, there's a championship. And I know that there's one college championship trophy that we're going to see, in a week or so, but there's just too many bowl games. It loses its credibility when damn near 50, 60 teams are in a bowl game. What's the point? But I don't know.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but a lot of these no-name teams, that's their time to shine, really. Look at what you just mentioned, Arkansas State versus Northern Illinois. No one's going to be watching them, but since they made the bowl game, they're on ESPN, and people are looking at these no-name guys. And I get what you're saying, but the whole college football is a scene. Money, and I do get what the coaches trying to get an extra couple weeks of practices just to see what they have, because there's so many regulations with practices and coaches talking to players. So it's really an extra way to get more practice and kind of see who's on the roster. But I don't know. I think it's kind of cool because a lot of these teams really do like the bowl games. They can, put it in their trophy case if they won. I know you make fun of it, the Pop-Tarts Bowl, but it's something cool for them. I don't know. I think it's cool.
Is it cool though? That's like if you win the Pop-Tarts Bowl, isn't that like, congratulations, you came in 27th place? Right?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
Another thing it does is it gives a lot of teams the opportunity to play teams that they never played before. That's what the bowls are really about. Like, Auburn's playing Maryland, Ole Miss is playing Penn State, Missouri's playing Ohio State. A lot of these teams never play each other, so it's a chance to play teams for the first time and kind of build some stuff there. So I get what you're saying, but I like it. I think it's good for the sport. It's a business, as we always say. Sports is a business, and this is the main way.
Money talks and something else walks. We all know what that is.
Oh yeah.
So
bullshot walks. Yeah,
that's right. We got to touch on, obviously, the games coming up this week. We are both on record with our picks.
Yep.
You've got Alabama. I want to say, keep me honest here. Was it 3 points?
Yep. I got Alabama -3, or beating them. I got them beating. They're actually getting 2 points. And then I also have Texas. I want to say I have them beating Washington by 3. They're 4.5-point favorites.
Yeah.
And then I have Alabama beating Texas in the championship by, I think I said 7 points. I want to say 3 or 7 points.
Yeah. I've got Michigan winning it. I've just got a feeling with them this year. I think they're going to hold off Alabama. Maybe it's because I didn't think Alabama was going to beat Georgia. You had that. I didn't.
Yep.
I don't know. I still think Michigan is winning. We both got Texas, so we'll see what happens in the national championship. If it's Alabama, Texas, if it's Michigan, Texas, but should be a good game. I'm curious. What do you think, Orange Bowl? That's another good game, and I think Florida State has a lot to prove, trying to quiet the doubters. They've got that chip on their shoulder, obviously, for not making it and being cast aside. Who do you like in that game?
Georgia's going to kill them. The reason why I say that is Florida State does not have a quarterback. They're playing the same freshman that played in the ACC championship game. I want to say his last name is Glenn. Brock Glenn, I want to say his name is. Tate Rodemaker, who I've mentioned, he's in the transfer portal. Another quarterback, AJ Duffy's in the transfer portal. And we know about Jordan Travis. And I think they're just going to get smoke checked because Carson Beck, who's the quarterback for Georgia, he already mentioned that he's coming back next year. So obviously he's going to be there. And I think they're just going to smoke check him just because Florida State doesn't have a quarterback. And I just think Georgia's out to prove that they're better. They're gonna come out and say we should be here, and they still got their starting quarterback. He had 23 touchdowns, 3,700 yards passing, and 6 interceptions. That was a pretty good year for Carson Beck. And Florida State's losing a lot of guys, either transfer portal or not playing because they're going to the NFL.
I'm assuming the line is already out on that game without looking at it.
17.5 points.
Okay. Do you like Georgia?
Sorry, I was looking at it right here.
You like Georgia to cover that?
Oof, yeah, I do.
Yeah? Wow. Okay.
I was looking at it. That's why I had the spread ahead of me. I'm looking at ESPN, all the bowls. Do you think they cover?
I think Georgia wins, but I like Florida State to cover.
It's a big spread.
It is a big spread, and I think Florida State they're going to put all their heart into the game. They've got some weeks to prepare. I think they'll keep it within 2 touchdowns. So I think Georgia wins, but I'll take Florida State to cover.
You do realize that they don't have 2 of their top receivers. They don't have a quarterback, and they lost a bunch of their guys on defense.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm just saying they're in a crapshoot, as they would say.
Yeah, I wouldn't put. I'm not putting my own money on it. I don't want to have our listeners go right to their bookie and say, "Well, Greg said no." I'm not saying that, but if you're just asking me just for fun, I could see Florida State covering. That's all.
I mean, I could too, but it's just not going to happen, unfortunately. I got a lot of Florida State fans out there, and they saw I went to bat for them a couple weeks ago when, I said they should have been in the playoffs, but they're just losing too much talent, losing way too much talent on the team.
Yeah.
So and bringing back your starting quarterback is a big key to college football this year because he's coming back and he's your starting quarterback. He's been with you all year.
Yep.
Yes, sir. But I do want to mention my other boys. My Notre Dame boys. They're playing Oregon State in the. You're gonna like this one, the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. So that's gonna be a fun one. So the winner gets a big bowl of Frosted Flakes, I guess.
Jesus. You could have got away with that because what I'm looking at I just did a Google search and it just says Sun Bowl, but you said it's the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. Wow.
Yeah, buddy. We're gonna get a big bowl of Frosted Flakes.
So that's a Friday afternoon game. I'll tune into that just for you. And
I might get a bowl of Frosted Flakes and watch it too. That might be fun. I'll get a big bowl of Frosted Flakes.
Yeah. You like them? You think Notre Dame takes it?
Yeah. So Oregon State is down to their 3rd string quarterback, DJ Ogalamba. He's in the transfer portal. Their backup quarterback, Aiden Tate, I want to say his name is. He's transferring to Michigan State. So they're back to their 3rd string quarterback. And he hasn't played. I don't think he's played many snaps this year. We're down to our backup quarterback because Hartman is sitting out, but still Oregon State with their 3rd string backup. I mean, it's only 6 points, but I can see Notre Dame handling that easily just because of the talent that we still have, the young guys that we have, and like I said, that extra week of practice that I keep telling you about with all these bowl games. We're rocking and rolling with that.
Yeah, but is it really? It's an extra week of practice, but in terms of evaluating what you have for next year, is it really doing that if you're down to your backup? Why are you down to your backup? Is he hurt?
Because Sam Hartman is opting out to play to get ready for the NFL draft. So a lot of these, what's been happening in the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of these senior quarterbacks or really good players that are going to go high in the draft, they decide to opt out so they don't get injured. Yeah, so they don't get injured because what happened, I want to say 6 or 7 years ago, remember Jalen Smith, the middle linebacker?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was playing for Notre Dame against Ohio State, and he had a knee injury that was very, very, very severe, and it almost ended his career. So a lot of people are seeing that happening, and they don't want to mess up their future career. So a lot of these guys are opting out.
Got it. Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks I always like watching them in the last couple of games, but it sucks. So.
Yeah. Well, what do you think, Darcy?
You better believe that.
All right. We're gonna transition to our beer segment like we usually do. It looks like we're kind of right on cue, about an hour in. So take a short break. We'll come back, do some live beer reviews, some taste testing, and then I think we'll touch on maybe some hockey, some NBA. I got a couple thoughts there. Get back to NFL and our picks, and then we'll wrap up. But take a short break.
Yeah, we'll share we're going to share our top 5 moments of 2023. So that's going to be very interesting and very fun to hear. I have the list, but Greg's going to chime in too. So it's going to be fun for both of us.
I'm giving my thoughts. Yep. We'll be back in a few.
Yeah. PJ, let me talk my talk. What's singing right now? Yeah. Merry Christmas. Yeah, this year I don't have a wish list. All I want for Christmas is to wake up, is to be the realest to show me your attention. I got the whole crew here. You know what's the move here. We be lit from January 2nd to the new year. Grandma got the food here. Joyful is the mood, yeah. Let's go. Oh, what a time, oh, what a joy. Look at the tree, it's filled up with toys. On me, oh my, there's milk on the floor. House covered in lights, let's put up some more. Oh, what a time, sleigh bells jingling. Put out the carols, let's go singing. Look at the tree, oh, how it's gleaming. Star on the top, make sure it's blinging. Like my necklace, what's for breakfast? I need leftovers and extras. As soon as my cousins pull up, we open our gifts in seconds. Ain't got time to play, you got yours, I got mine, okay? Everybody here, we celebrating Christmas time, you know the occasion. Yeah, this year, I don't have a wish list. All I want for Christmas is to wake up, is to be the realest one that's living. I don't need expensive, this what confidence is. I could show up, but me used to show me your attention. I got the whole crew here, you know what's the move, yeah. We be lit from January 2nd to the new year. Grandma got the food here, joyful is the mood, yeah. No, it's Christmas time. And it's litty, yeah, it's Christmas time. Get it litty, yeah, it's Christmas time. You know I got it litty. This a PJ Panda Christmas party, and it's for the kiddies, yeah. This year, I don't have a wish list. All I want for Christmas is to wake up, is to be the realest one that's lit.
I've had a largemouth bass bust my line. A couple beautiful girls tell me goodbye. Trucks break down, dogs run off. Politicians lie, been fired by the boss. It takes one hand to count the things I can count on. No, there ain't much man that ain't ever let me down. Long neck, ice cold beer never broke my heart. Like diamond rings and football teams have torn this boy apart. Like a neon dream, it just don't know me. The bars in this guitar. And long neck, ice cold beer never broke my heart.
Oh, yeah.
Long neck,
Yes,
ice cold
sir.
beer.
You better believe that.
Overtime Sports Show back after our commercial break, and this is our beer segment. We do it every single week without fail. Live beer tasting, live beer reviews, something that we love, something that we enjoy. Dan, did you go first last week or did I?
I believe you did because you were asking what I guessed, and we did. You had your Marzen, and then I had
think
my
you're
double
right.
IPA. So
Yep.
I think that was a fun. I think that was a fun segment. What do you think? You want to guess what I got this week? It's a curveball. My sister's in town for the holidays, and she actually picked this one out for me. So it's definitely a curveball.
It's a curveball. Let me ask you, would I like it?
Yeah, you would. You would.
Well,
It's very, very interesting, to say the least.
is it a Marzen?
No, sir.
No. Pilsner?
No, sir.
No. Okay.
So it is a Barliner Weiss, and it's
Okay.
called Jam Stand.
Nice. I like that can.
Raspberry with vanilla and hibiscus, 4.5% alcohol. It's got real fruit, and it says fresh jammy goodness. It's a soured beer. It's got water, malted barley, malted wheat, hibiscus, raspberries, vanilla bean, hops, yeast, lactobacillus, barley, and wheat. And it's from a Nickelbrock Brewing Company in Burlington, Etobicoke, Ontario. So it's a Canadian beer.
Etobicoke. Yep. I actually know that town somewhat well. So,
Do you really? Hockey players?
yep. This beer sounds like, do you remember the one that I tried, I think 2 weeks
A
ago?
couple weeks
It was
ago, yes.
a very shortcake kind of thing.
Oh, man, wow. You should smell this thing. Holy
Look
moly.
at that color.
The
That looks
vanilla.
like wine coming
Yeah.
out of the glass.
The vanilla and the hibiscus is huge off
Really?
the smell. Yeah. Look at that poor dude. I'm still hitting 14 for 14 on greens and regulation and fairways, my man.
Mhm. Wait, who was it that told us they didn't know greens regulation was the Dolinator?
Yes, it was
We
Dolinator,
gotta drag him
unfortunately.
out to the golf course, man. That's
We will. We
swing
will.
and miss. Yeah.
So it's probably a similar color. I think yours was more red, right? When you had it a couple weeks ago.
It looked a little darker. That looks a little bit lighter, but very, very similar.
So off the nose is a strong hint of vanilla. Oh, wow. So what happens is you first get raspberries, vanilla, and then hibiscus at the end. That is, wow. That is a delicious beer. Wow. We're going to have our second 9.0 beer. Holy moly, that's good.
9.0.
Jeez Louise. Wow,
oh. 9.0.
that is a
And-
delicious beer. I don't know if you want to see it again. Jam Stand.
Jamstand. Yep, I got it.
With
Etobicoke, Canada,
vanilla
4.5%.
Yep. Holy moly, that's good. Wow.
Very
Great
nice.
beer,
9.0.
better stories.
9.0.
Wow.
Like it.
Wow.
I like the can.
That's-
Very nice. So does it
that's
taste like a
awesome.
dessert almost? The jam?
Yes, so it does actually taste like a jam, and
Okay.
it's really sour. I mean, you gotta love sours, and I really love sours.
Mhm.
So
I
I
would
can
try
see
it.
this drinking out in your pool, pounding in the heat because it's really refreshing.
I like it.
Very, very good.
All right. So sticking to a theme here, and then I'm really going to switch it up after this one. But as you can imagine,
Oh, Martian
actually-
again?
Yeah. Well, yep.
Okay.
So let me hold it up. This is a Marzen. It's an Oktoberfest Marzen.
Oh, Brooklyn
And-
Brewery. I've been to that brewery.
Yep,
That's a great brewery.
Exactly. Yep. And that's
It's a
kind of
great,
why I
great
picked it.
brewery.
I've had some beers from them before, but I've not had this one. And as anybody who's been listening to us now for a couple weeks would know, I've been on a Marzen kick. This is the last one I'm going to do for a little while, and then I'm going to switch it up. But I like Brooklyn Brewery, and I like Marzen. So this one says it's malty, it says it's snappy, and it says it's festive. Those are the notes. So because we're in the season, I decided to give this one a whirl. It is 5.5%.
Okay.
And we'll see.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great brewery, by the way. I've been there. It's a great brewery.
Let's see.
Turn the glass. Turn the glass.
There's some, huh?
You got to turn the glass. Oh, boy.
What do you mean turn the glass?
You got to do it at a 45-degree angle.
Oh, tilt. You said turn it. You
Yeah,
said
tilt,
turn it.
turn. Oh,
You
boy.
said turn it. You threw me. I'm
I
chalking
got
that
to
one
take a
up to
picture.
you.
Let me take
I'm
a picture of this real
I'm
quick and
chalking
send
that
it
one
to
up
the
to
Dolinator.
you.
All right.
said
I just took a
turn it.
picture of it. Okay. Turn it, tilt it. Same difference.
No, they're very different. So it's malty. It's not quite as malty as the other ones that I've had recently, but it's going to be snappy. So tell you what I think in a
I like
second.
the color. I like the color.
It's dark. It looks like a typical Marzen, but the smell is not as pungent as the others. It is snappy. Wow.
Yeah, like snappy in what way? Like kicks you?
Well, it's a little, I can taste, it's a little hoppy, honestly. It's a little bitter. It's got a bit of an aftertaste to it. Not quite what I was expecting, but let me give it another whirl. Yeah, I don't know. I was expecting more of it, but I'm not gonna lie.
So like
It's not
malty, what other
horrible,
flavors you got? Caramel?
Huh?
What other flavors you got?
It's just, I'm trying to think. I mean, the way they described it on the can, malty, snappy, festive. It says Brooklyn Oktoberfest gives the classic Marzen style a New York accent. Sweet malts and German noble hops make it the perfect guest for fall occasions. I mean, that's what I taste is the hops. I don't know about German noble or New York accent, but it's a little hoppy. It's a little more, as they say, snappy than what I was expecting. Let me give it one more sip. I want to be fair to this one, but I'm I hate to say it, I'm not loving it.
Oh boy. All right.
I mean, it's not terrible. I'm not gagging. I can get it down, but it's not my favorite. It's kind of, to be honest, it's almost lacking a little bit of flavor. It's got a little bit of sharpness and bite to it, a little bit of bitter, but there's not a whole lot there. I'm going. This is going to be brutal. I hate to do this in the middle of cheerful season, but we're honest. You're honest with your 9. You love it. This is down there, man. This is down there. I'm going.
Oh boy.
I got to be fair. I'm going 7-1.
Ooh, that's almost your worst beer, man. You had a 7. I think the first beer we did, Tallahassee, was your worst beer.
It's down there. This is down there. It's not. It doesn't excite me. It's not. To be honest, I wouldn't get it again. I wouldn't refuse it if I was thirsty, but I wouldn't get it again. There's just not much here. I was expecting more because I've liked Marzens, but this one, I don't know. Let me try one more.
So funny you say that. I found on the internet, I went to their website, and the tasting note says clean, classical, and toasty. That's what the tasting notes say on their website.
Toasty for sure. It's toasty. That's the sharpness, the snappiness that hits you. You know, it's the aftertaste. But classical, I wouldn't describe it as classical. I don't like it.
Yeah,
I'm giving that a 7-1, and I feel comfortable about it. Not
fine.
impressed. Sorry.
Well, I'd recommend getting off the old Marzen kick.
I am. I'm off it now. I've got a little bit of a surprise for you. A new theme starting next week and for the next couple weeks. So,
yep, I got 5 more. Like I was telling you before the show, I was able to get 6, so I'm good for 6 weeks of shows, and they're all interesting beers.
Nice. All right.
Oh yeah.
That's our beer segment.
Well,
honest reviews. We got 2 opposite ends of the
Cheers,
spectrum.
brother.
A 9.0 and a 7.1. But it's always fun, regardless of how they taste, regardless of my
Oh yeah.
Hey, I knew I would get you with that one.
No, that was almost bad. It almost went right through my nose. That would have been
bad. I knew I could get you with that one. You know, hey, that's okay. This is a live show. If you spit out your beer when I say something funny, I'll take that as a compliment. You know.
Yeah, it almost happened, my friend.
I watch Boomer and Gio on TV a lot, and Gio is a funny SOB, and he makes Boomer laugh a lot. And there was something that happened a few months back where they're live on TV, and Boomer just spit his drink all over his keyboard on the desk, and it was great to see. They're human, and we're human too. So I hope one of these days I can make you spit your beer out. But,
it may happen.
Yeah, I want to switch to basketball if you're all right with it for a moment.
Yeah,
I want to celebrate. I wish I had a better tasting beer, but I'm going to take another swig of it. I almost got this thing down already, but I want to.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. I know.
I want to toast.
One game away, sir.
They set the record. Here's to the Detroit Pistons. Set the record tonight. Most consecutive losses in a single season. 27 in a row. No, they said it. We covered this. So 26 was the tie.
Yep.
27 was to set the record. And they did it. A hell of an accomplishment. Here's to you, Pistons players, management, fans, everyone involved. Cheers to your suckage.
Yep.
I was overjoyed this past week since we did our last show. You and I talk, and I actually put a little bit of money on the Pistons. Not tonight, but I think their previous game. Made a couple shekels on the game they played. I believe it was the Jazz. I took.
They were favored by 1.5, I believe.
I took the opposing team and I took the under, and I hit them both, so that was nice. I didn't get down tonight, but I was eagerly waiting to see the outcome, and the Nets beat them 118-112. So the Pistons, as of today, December 26, 2023, They are 2-28, and they've lost 27 in a row. I mean,
Yep. Yeah. That's
bravo,
pretty
bravo,
impressive.
Pistons
Pretty
players,
impressive.
fans,
Pretty impressive. Yeah.
everybody all around. And you know what? I meant to look this up earlier. You might know it, you might not. Do you know who the Pistons coach is?
Yeah.
Top of your
He's
head?
there's actually it's Monty Williams. So
Monty
actually I
Williams.
saw it this morning.
Nice.
So Greg Popovich and Monty Williams. Popovich is getting paid $16 million. Monty Williams is getting paid $13 million. Combined, they're 4 and 30. They're 4 and like 56, and they're the two highest coaches in the NBA.
They're the highest coaches?
Yep, look it up. $16 million for Greg Popovich, $13 million for Monty Williams.
And they
combined,
have the two worst records?
They're 4 and like 56 or something. Let me look at the standings real quick.
Wow.
I saw that on Instagram earlier today. No, 6 and 54.
Wow.
6 and 52. 6 and 52. Popovich is getting paid $16 million, and Monty Williams is getting paid $13 million.
That's amazing. Yeah. I'm giving kudos to Monty. I mean, how we talked about this, I think, last week. How he has a job still is beyond me. I know you said that they're young. I know you think that they could be turning it around just in as short of 3 years or so, which could happen, but just I don't know. Somebody's got to be very, very forgiving, upstairs in their front office. They've got to be very forgiving, understanding, patient. I mean, 2-27, it's I'm almost at a loss for words. You might as well just completely go winless throughout the season. And if you do that, how do you put on a jersey? How do you put a team out on the court knowing that you're not even going to be able to compete? Like something went seriously wrong with that organization. I don't even think you can just say that they're young and they're on the up and up. It's going to take them a couple of years. Well, what's the worst record in the NBA ever? That's another thing I want to look up now. Forget the streak. They got one, most consecutive losses. What's the worst record ever in the NBA? We got to do a little live fact checking.
Hold on 1 second.
82 games.
That can't be that.
Bobcats, 34 and 48.
Yeah, that's not bad of a record. I guess that's it. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't seem horrible, right?
No, it doesn't seem that bad.
No, okay, 7 and 59.
Okay. Yeah, I do see that.
They were 7. I don't know why it says that, but 7 and 59.
Oh, it said they failed to improve on their 34 and 48 record from the previous year. 7 and 59. That's pretty brutal, actually. And that was just over 10 years ago in 2011, 2012. That's pretty bad. 7 and 59. But you know what? They're on pace to do worse than that. The season's almost half over. So all right. So I'm a man of my word. We said we were going to donate to a charity, which I'm going to hold true. Going to throw out $100 before our next show to a charity, and I'm going to double down on that. I'm going to say we've got a number of months, but I'm going to say if the Pistons go 7 and 59, that's not enough games. That's only 66 games.
Yeah, I don't know why that was. Oh, there might have been a lockout season.
Oh.
Let me see. The worst 50 teams in NBA history. Hold on.
Yeah, I see the same link.
9 and 73 it looks like 9 and 73. 1973, the Philadelphia 76ers. The reason why that they had the worst because they had a worst winning percentage of 106. The Sixers were 9 and 73.
You're looking at the same link as I am, I think. Do you see who's number one by winning percentage?
Yeah, Detroit Pistons.
Okay, so 9 and 73. If the Pistons go 8 and it wouldn't be 72 because that was an 80 game. Oh no, that was an 82 game season. So they would have to go. They would have to go 8 and 74. So if they do that, I'm going to double it down and put another $100 to a charity. So I'm already doing it because they set the consecutive wins, but I'm going to, if you want to join me, I'm not saying you have to, but I'm going to double it down. I want to see them go 8-74, and I'm going to put more money towards the charity. I'm embracing this unheard of level of suckage. I mean, look at the teams that are close. Like you said, the Bobcats, it must have been a lockout season because it was only 66 games. But after that, the 76ers, that was 1973. I mean, that's a long time ago.
They were 10-72.
Yeah, I guess that was recent. Yeah. But then if you go back, I mean, 1948, 1993, wait a minute. Oh, and then it's
scroll down. Look at the one. Yeah, look at the 1, 8, and 16. They're all this year. Isn't that horrible?
Yeah.
1, 8, and 16.
Oh, yeah.
The Wizards.
Yeah.
Isn't that horrible? 3 teams this year. Wow. Yeah, there is.
So, and the only reason the Wizards they have the same losses as the Spurs, just one more win, and that vaults them eight points up. So, yeah, they're still
winning
in the
percentage.
There's still some there's some bad teams this year.
It really is.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to highlight that. I had to congratulate them. I had some a bet on it. I'm a man of my word, and I can't believe they did it. To be honest, when did I call this out? I think they were 17. I think it was 16 or 17. Something. Yeah, like
we both did 16. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And now they've gone and here it is another 10. I mean, that's almost half the amount of games they played, and they did it. They couldn't win one game since I brought this up, but 27 in a row it's incredible.
The most abysmal stat to me is they started the season 2-1, and now they're 2-28.
Right, exactly. that's incredible. That really is amazing. But
yeah, it's wild.
It is wild, but rest of the league, I mean, not too much has changed. You know, we talk about it week to week. The Celtics are still up top. The Magic, your boys are still in the conversation, sitting at 4. And then you got the
Oklahoma's 3.
Oklahoma's 3. So, you know, pretty much the same.
Just need them to make the playoffs. That's all I need them to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So interesting stuff. What about you want to turn to hockey for a second?
Yeah, let's turn over to hockey real quick. We mentioned at the beginning of the show with my Islanders, 16-8, 6 points behind the Rangers. An interesting stat. I don't know if you saw it, but they haven't played in 3 days because they gave the holiday break that you were talking about a couple weeks ago. I thought that was interesting. Yeah. They get back to games tomorrow, but I thought that was interesting that they had some days off.
Yeah, there's they had 3 or 4 days off, and I want to say the transactional period is frozen until tomorrow. I don't know why they do that. Maybe it's just to give.
I read this afternoon. It just said they have time to spend with their loved ones. That's what it told me. That's all it said that I saw on the internet.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Every team has 3 days off.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk about my boys, the Devils, who are in need of some defensive help and goaltending help. There's a lot of buzz right now. Maybe when transactions can resume, I think it's either tomorrow or Thursday. The rumor mill has them potentially going after John Gibson from Anaheim. I don't know what we would give up to get him. We have some money to play with because Dougie Hamilton is on long-term IR. He's got a pretty big contract, and he's probably going to be out through the season. One of the reasons why we're kind of struggling on defense, he's not necessarily known for his defense, but he's a veteran guy. He contributes offensively on the blue line, and we miss him. So we have some money where we could potentially make something happen, but I don't really know what we would give up. And honestly, as bad as our goaltending has been, I don't really know that a guy like Gibson is an answer. The big worry for me is that a goaltender on another team that looks good may not have the same kind of success with us, is because our defense really is that bad. In my opinion, the Devils' defense is got a lot of holes. We lost a guy like Ryan Graves. We lost Damon Severson to the Blue Jackets, for various reasons. We've got 2 rookies on the blue line. Luke Hughes is great playing with his brother. He's bringing a lot of offense. Simon Nemec is a rookie defenseman who's going to bring some offensive prowess as well, and eventually over time probably become a defensive stalwart. But those those two rookies are rightfully so prone to being liabilities on the blue line. And the Devils defense is just, it's been a big problem all season so far. And I don't know, trading for a guy like Gibson or anybody else. Some people have already thrown out Marc-Andre Fleury's name, a veteran who's been around for a long time and maybe, could come in and try to win a cup somewhere else. But I just don't think a goalie is our immediate answer. I'm not even completely sold on the head coach, honestly. I don't know that they're going to move on from Lindy Ruff, but they got to do something, and I'd much rather see them try to add somebody on the blue line somewhere than go out fishing for a goalie, because it's just too much of a crapshoot. And you look at you guys on the other end of the spectrum, you got a guy like Sorokin who he's not invincible, but I think he's one of the better netminders in the league. And you guys have had a better season than I think most have expected. You guys are firmly in the conversation. Devils are still looking up at you guys in the standings. I didn't expect that this year, but you're wearing your hat, and the Islanders look like they're poised to maybe have a nice playoff berth this year.
Yeah, like I said, they had to put up or shut up. They have that. I don't mean to keep repeating myself, but they had that old core, and they needed to put up or shut up, because Lamoriello wasn't going to take the team not playing good with having these guys here for 5-6 years. So they're finally starting to play well. And you mentioned we have a really good goalie mix. Varlamov, the backup, he's having a pretty solid year too. So when you have two solid goalies, I mean, you're not really missing a beat when you give Sorokin a break and you bring in Varlamov. I mean, that's pretty solid. So it's good all around. They, like you said, they're 6-1-3 in their last 10 games. So that's pretty exciting. And, they're 33 games in. They play 82, so they're almost halfway through, and they got 41 points. So that's pretty impressive. I think they're on the up and up, and Barzal is finally healthy. Last couple of years he's been hurt. So I believe that's paying dividends to our whole team. And we have a full year of Bo Harvard. We have pretty good solid squad, and we're just playing really well. Goaltending's well, defense is good, and offense is good. And that's the cocktail for success, as we've been talking about cocktails today. So,
yeah,
good stuff. It's good stuff.
It's interesting when I look at the standings. I'm seeing the top 12 right now in the entire league. And the thing that sticks out to me, unfortunately not in a good way, is of the top 12 teams, the goal differential is positive for all of them except the Islanders. If you look at the top 12 by points, you guys are ninth in the standings, but you're the only one who has a negative goal differential. You're -4. And as I'm looking at it, you've got 104 goals scored, 108 goals allowed. The goals allowed, as much as I should give kudos to Sorokin, I'm wondering if maybe it's your defense too, because that's a lot of goals allowed. You're kind of in the middle of the pack, it looks like, in terms of goals for. In fact, yeah, you're right in the middle. 104, the league leader's only 135, but goals allowed, you're up there in goals allowed. You're not the worst, but higher than expected. So I don't know. You think does your defense need some work as well, or is it just some kind of a fluke?
A little bit of work, but we play a lot of close games. So either we win by a goal, or if we lose, obviously, as you can tell, we lose by 2 or 3 goals. So it's good, but it's also nerve-wracking. Playoff hockey comes. That's when it gets a little nerve-wracking, because either you can, play, and we know how overtime rules are in hockey. You play until you win. So playing these close games are not good for the psyche when you're watching playoff hockey. And we're on the East Coast, and they usually start at 7, 8 o'clock. That means that there's going to be a lot of late nights in NHL hockey time for playoffs. Yeah. But yeah, we probably need a little bit of help, but that just, it just shows how good our goalie is. Because like I said, we win close games, but when we lose, we lose big. And, maybe some of the guys don't play as hard when they're down 4-1 or 3-2 or, stuff like that. But we'll be all right. Like I said, there's more than half the season left. And I like where we're at right now. But talking about hockey, I did want to mention that our boy Ovechkin finally got a goal back on the 21st. So he finally got off the snide, and he finally got a goal. So that's good for him. I know we've spoken about him a couple times and how we both like him and watch him playing. So I'm glad that he was able to finally get a goal after, I want to say, like 13 or 14 games. So that was good for him.
Yeah, I'm rooting for that guy. I think I did see that as well. I'm pulling for him. We talked about it last week before. I don't know if it's the passing of his father or if it's just age finally catching up to him. He's missing a longtime line mate of his and teammate in Nicholas Backstrom. There's talk about
Yep.
whether that guy ever actually comes back, given what he's dealing with. So there's some things that are affecting Ovechkin's game for sure. But you're right. It is nice to see him get off the schneid, and I'm pulling for him. I really hope that he can stick it out. And we looked at his contract, I think last week. He's got a couple years left.
2 more
So,
years. Yeah, 2 more years left. Yep.
If he can stay somewhat hot, there's no reason to think that he wouldn't be able to hunt down that record if he continues to play those seasons. So I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, I am too. I think we should switch gears. I think this will be something fun. I like doing these top fives.
Do it.
I think it'll be a collaborative. Wanted to bring up my top 5 sports moments for 2023, as this will be the final show of 2023. So starting off with number 5, I think this was a very impressive stat that the Vegas Golden Knights, they were the fastest NHL franchise to win a Stanley Cup in just 6 seasons. So I thought that was pretty cool, as like I said, only been in the league 6 years and winning the Stanley Cup. We know that 3 years ago they played against the Capitals and got there, but I think it was cool that they were able to win in just 6 years. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think that it's worthy of praising them. I like putting them at top 5. It's impressive. It's a short amount of time to become a good team, to become not just relevant, but a deep team and ultimately win the grand prize. I was thinking about the Lightning, who I'm here in the local market. They came into the league in 92. And I want to say 98, 99, 2000 or so, they were 8 years into their existence, and they were not only not competing for a Stanley Cup and winning it, but they were, if I recall, they were setting records for, as we talked about in basketball, setting the record for the worst statistical seasons, the most, I think, consecutive losses. The Lightning had, I think, 50 losses one year, maybe back-to-back years. It was really, really bad. That sticks out to me because in 98, they got the first overall pick with Vinny Lecavalier, but that was right when they were really, really bad. And that was 8-9 years into their existence. They weren't sniffing a Stanley Cup. Now, eventually, after that many years of terrible seasons, they eventually won their first cup in 04, but that was 12 years into their existence. That was more than double what Vegas did. So I like it. I like putting Vegas in your top 5. It's truly impressive what they did last year, especially with their goaltending duo. They had a guy like Adin Hill who kind of came out of nowhere. They brought in a guy like Jack Eichel at the right time from Buffalo. So they did the right thing. Their coaching staff, Mark Stone's a great captain. I think that's impressive. I like that at number 5. Good call.
So this is actually a really cool stat. So just to stay on that, the top 5 of teams winning the Stanley Cup. Before the Vegas, it was the Flyers who won in 7 seasons, the Islanders who won in 8 seasons, which jumpstart their 4-year Stanley Cup championships. The Edmonton Oilers were tied with the Lightning with 12 seasons in the league, and the Anaheim Ducks were 14 seasons before they won. So that's a pretty cool little top 5, I think, and that's very interesting how these teams win so quickly, and that for me and you are big sports hockey guys, and we think that's the hardest sport just because of the physical toll, the hitting, and just to be able to do that so quickly. You got to have a really good front office. You got to have a really good coaching staff and good scouting. So it's very impressive for all those teams.
100%. I like it. What you got, number 4?
So my fourth one that I think is really, really cool. We don't really touch on this a lot. And I did wear a hat a couple episode 1 or 2 about soccer. It's Lionel Messi coming to the United States to play with Inter Miami, which, is really, really huge for the soccer game, really, really huge for American soccer, and really huge for MLS. I mean, I don't know if you know much about Lionel Messi, but he's arguably the best football/soccer player in the whole world with Cristiano Ronaldo. And he's, I want to say, a year or 2 older than us, but just for David Beckham, who owns the Miami team, for him to be able to come to the U.S. and get that type of caliber, that really speaks measures to where MLS has come and where they're going. And And it's just really cool. I love going to live soccer games. Orlando City, I know I've mentioned before, those are a lot of fun. But just to have Lionel Messi come to the United States and play in the MLS, that's really, really impressive.
I like it. Yeah, I agree. That's another great moment to put into your top 5 of the year. Something like you said that we don't talk about much. We don't mention soccer, but you can't not mention that when you're considering the magnitude of things that happened in the sports landscape this past year. Because you're right, it's sort of unheard of to bring in a star like that to the U.S., where soccer it's not part of the big 4. You know, hockey, basketball, baseball, football. Soccer is usually somewhat of an afterthought, but Messi is as good as it gets in the game of soccer, and it's awesome to have here, you know, in our country, playing for teams here stateside. I hope, you know, I'm not the biggest soccer fan, but I hope for those who are that they are appreciating what they have. I mean, it's like seeing the modern day Jordan or Gretzky or Brady or Ruth or somebody like that. You know, you're truly seeing greatness, and I think it's awesome to have in this country. So good stuff. I like that in the top 5 as well.
Not to talk about the money that he's making the MLS, what he's making Miami, and what he's making the surrounding area. It's crazy. You know,
Yeah.
the friend of the show, Chris Dolan, who was on with us, he's got some contacts down being in South Florida. And I asked if he had any contacts with Miami. And he said, "Are you kidding me? That went faster than you can snap your fingers." You know, with the tickets getting sold out. So it's just very interesting that you know he brought a lot of money, and it's kind of just bringing a lot of people, average people, into the game of soccer, because it really is
Yeah.
a interesting sport if you can understand it and watch it, and it's
Mhm.
pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
my third one is a sport that you are getting into, but I thought this was really cool. In NBA, LeBron James surpassed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's career regular season points total of 38,387 to become the all-time leader back in February. That just speaks of LeBron James and the type of player that he is, and the consistency. I want to say this is his 21st year in the league, and for him to become the all-time leading scorer. I mean, people can say what they want about him, but at the end of the day, he's never in any bad highlights. He's never does anything bad. He doesn't, you know, do what these typical basketball players are doing. And I think kudos to him, because that's a really impressive stat.
Yeah. You nailed it. You can't. It's another thing. I think I love these 3 so far that you've done. I think they're absolutely worthy of talking about, being recognized in the top 5, and really so far in this order too. I think that completely agree. I was kind of shocked to see coming into this year that LeBron was on track and had a shot to pass Kareem for the all time record. I'm not. I don't always enjoy the debates when you compare guys of different eras, regardless of the sport. And I kind of wish he didn't break it, because now I think it's more ammunition for the LeBron fans to just continue to compare him to all the greats, Kareem,
Yeah.
Jordan, Bill Russell, whoever it is, because you can't ignore this stat. You can't ignore the guy who has the most points in the league ever. As you said, it speaks to his longevity, you know, and going to hockey. I'm as big of a Brodeur fan as they come. I like to think the guy is the greatest goalie of all time. There's guys you can put up there with him or maybe ahead of him, but one of the reasons I put him up there is the same reason. You can't deny longevity, durability, being able to play at a high level for such a long time, which is exactly what LeBron has done. I think one of, or maybe the only real big blemish that he has, in my opinion, is his championship, his finals record. You know, it's impressive making it as many times as he has, but what did we say his record is? He's won 4, lost 6, or something like that. He's lost
Yeah, I think he
more
scored 6. Yeah.
4 and 6. Yeah, so I think that's kind of a blemish, but he's been there 10 times. He's the all-time scoring leader. You
Yeah.
can't ignore that. Hell of an accomplishment. Whether you're a LeBron fan or not, you got to give the guy his kudos and his day in the sun. It cements him in that conversation forever. So awesome pick. I love that as your third
Yeah.
so far. I can't wait to see the top
Like I
2
said,
now.
it's just cool that, you know, he, not to kill it, but, you know, he's never in a bad highlight. He's never people doing anything stupid.
Yeah.
So that speaks words too, because nowadays you always hear about, look at Gerard Morant, speaking or having guns on Instagram Live, or you hear about somebody beating up a girlfriend or raping a girlfriend. It's just really cool because he's been in the spotlight so long that he's never had any blemishes, which I think that speaks wonders of his character and who he is and the people around him. So I think
Yeah.
I got to give him kudos to that. But
Totally.
number
agree.
2 for me, it's going to hit home with you. We just talked about hockey, hit home with our friend, Mr. Chris Dolinator. I wanted to touch on the Florida Panthers rewriting beating Boston in the playoffs when the Boston had the record book of the most wins and most points, and the Panthers coming and winning in 7 games. I thought that was quite an accomplishment because usually when you're setting records, you're in line to win the Stanley Cup. And for them to lose the first round to the Florida Panthers, I think that was quite an accomplishment and really, really cool. It was cool for Chris because he used that and bolstered into ticket sales for rest of the playoffs because they ended up going on to the Stanley Cup and also for this year coming up. So really, really cool to see that. And it's cool just to come for underdogs and shock the world, as they would say.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, when the regular season ended last year, it seemed like a foregone conclusion that Boston was going to win the cup. I mean, you probably could have drawn that conclusion halfway through the season. They're really not missing much of a beat this year. It kind of seems the same, but last year was something special. They were just clicking on all cylinders. Just weren't losing many games, if at all, and they were beating teams in crazy fashion. The games were often lopsided. Their goal differential was just through the roof. It was insane. And when the season ended, it looked like there was nobody that would be able to stand in their way, let alone the Panthers, who I think were the last seed. I think they were the 16th seed overall of the teams that made the playoffs. They were 8th in the East, one of the wild.
Yeah, they barely got in.
Yeah,
they barely got in.
Barely squeaked in, and you think about it on paper, it looked like the Bruins would breeze past them and everyone else. And lo and behold, like you said, they get upset in the first round. Just a terrible exit for the Bruins, but hell of an accomplishment, like you said, for the Panthers. Speaks to their depth, their players, their talent, the coaching, everything. And parlays into a great environment scenario for guys like Chris, our friend, who can reap the benefit of that success. But yeah, I like it. Hell of an accomplishment. You can't deny it. I don't think anybody saw that coming. So awesome and worthy to be in top 5, if you ask me.
So this last one, you'll realize why it's number 1, but it's a little bittersweet for me. I wanted to talk about Domingo Germán. He pitched the 24th perfect game in Major League Baseball history for the New York Yankees. And that's only 24 since it's been recognized since 1876. So you imagine how many games have been played since then. And for this to only be the 24th perfect game, that is quite an accomplishment. And for it to be with my Yankees, which is really cool. But the reason why it's bittersweet for me, I'm sure you know, is that this piece of work after that, about 2 or 3 weeks later, the Yankees suspended him for getting into domestic violence with his girlfriend. So, like, he has this high, and then they suspend him because he's beating up on his girlfriend and he was drinking alcohol in the locker room and being belligerent. So it's quite an accomplishment, but it's kind of bittersweet, like I said, just because of the how it ended out with this guy. I mean, I don't even think he's going to play in baseball ever again in his life. But, to be the 24th pitcher to throw a perfect game, that's quite a feat.
It is, yeah. It's you never want an accomplishment to be followed by such an unfortunate incident like that. But in terms of the athletic feat and accomplishment, to me, they're separate. They really are. One is, it's a personal circumstance. I don't know that we know all the details. Like you said, maybe he doesn't play again, and maybe that's for the right reasons. But what he did prior to that on the baseball field, to me, is you can set that aside and still examine that for what it is. And you're right. Looking at it purely from a statistical perspective, like you said, 162 games per year per team, Baseball's been around for
Yeah.
150 years. There's only been 24
Yeah.
of these things. There's a reason why it's called a perfect game. It's perfect. You have to be
Yep.
flawless. And obviously there's other guys on the field who help you accomplish that, but it all starts with you. The ball leaves your hand, 100 plus times on any given night. And it's up to you to make that happen. And, the perfect game is perfect. And there's only been 24. So I think that's when you see that, it's special because you never know when you're going to get to see another one of those, if you ever will again.
Exactly.
So yeah, and to your point, it means a little bit extra to you because you happen to be a Yankees fan, and Domingo, unfortunately for him, maybe that was him going out on a high note if he never truly does come back. But yeah, that's a heck of an accomplishment. Just again, one of those things that if you're fortunate enough to have been there in person, it's something you'll probably never forget ever. Maybe probably one of the best sports moments you'll ever see live. If you watched it on TV or just knew that it happened, it's one of those things that you'll pass down to children or grandchildren and say, hey, I saw this guy pitch a perfect game because it's unique. It's one of those unicorn type things that doesn't come by every day. So I like it. That's awesome. That's a hell of a top 5 you just gave. I can't argue with any of them. They're all awesome moments. I'm super excited. We got to do this. I have to do it with you next year. We'll be here
That's
a year
fine.
from now and both do our top 5s. But what you just recapped, I can't argue with a single one. They were a great representation of what we witnessed here in 2023. Awesome way to kind of reminisce, go down memory lane the past 365 days and what we witnessed in 2023. Good job.
Yeah, that was good stuff. It was I know we don't want to kind of drown it with these top 5s, but I think they're kind of cool to listen when we do a top 5s because we did the venues, with Chris, we did our top 5 Thanksgiving foods and top 5 moments of the 2023. So there'll be more to come on that in 2024. I think we can do some real fun stuff. So I enjoy it. It's cool.
I do. Well done. I give you a lot of props. Like I said, I couldn't argue with any of them. So I like it.
I figured it'd be cool. Yep. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So football picks before we wrap up.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Yeah, we're running 152. It looks like we're doing good.
Yeah. Quick little recap from last week. I'm kind of stunned. To be honest, I wasn't paying attention to the picks. I was caught up in the holidays, some, Christmas. I was watching a little bit of the Giants, even though it didn't matter. I was more tuned into my fantasy team than anything else. But apparently I went 2-0 this week. I was 11 wins, 13 losses coming in. I had Cleveland giving 2.5 points, and they won. I'm trying to go back to the schedule just to see what the score was. I think they won pretty handily.
I'll get it real quick.
Yeah.
It was 36-22.
Yeah, I remember they won pretty handily because oops, I got some sound here. They won pretty handily because of that game from Cooper and Flacco, but they won by more than enough. So I got the victory there. And then as we know, we talked about it earlier, I had the Ravens 5.5 points, and they didn't even need it because they won outright. So fortunate enough to go 2-0 this week, and that puts me at an even 13-13 with just 2 weeks to play. You, on the other hand, I know this hurts you, but it wasn't terrible. You went 1-1. You had the Bucks giving 1 to your boys. You called it. You like that spread.
Not my boys.
Okay, you're
not my boys.
Not your boys. The boys who play geographically close to you. Yes. So
yeah, the boys
they
that I
won.
give shit to about all the time.
The Bucks won easily, so you got that one right. This sucks. You had Dallas getting 1.5, and they lost by 2.
They lose by 2.
Yeah. So that's
on a last second field goal, mind you.
Yeah.
On a last second field goal, mind you.
Yeah. That's a punch, but you go 1-1, so that puts you at 12-14. So I'm a game up, but it's pretty much as close as it could possibly be. We got 2 weeks left. I'm really curious to see how we end up. This has been hard really, really hard.
Very hard.
We've kind of gone back and forth, up and down a little bit. I don't think we've ever been more than 2 games apart. I have to go back and
We have
look,
not.
but we've pretty much been neck and neck. We were 9-9, 10-10, 11-11. The week before, I went 0-2. You went 1-1. Now I went 2-0. You went 1-1. So we've just been going back and forth. But I'm going to give you the honors because I think I went first last week, and I think I actually stole some of your thunder. So I'm going to let you go first. Tell me what you like for your lock and your upset.
All right. So my lock is going to be the Browns -7 against the Jets. We talked about the Browns beginning of the show. We talked about Flacco. We talked about Cooper. We talked about their defense. Talked about Jerome Ford. So I do like them. I think the Jets are just dead in the water. Everybody knows my feelings on their coach. So I just don't think they have any spunk left in them.
Yeah.
But I'm taking them -7. And this one's going to throw you for a curveball, but it really shouldn't. I'm going to take the Bengals +7 against the Chiefs.
The Bengals +7. Okay. All right.
Yep. The Bengals are going to get my boy Jamar Chase back, hopefully. But I mean, the Chiefs will probably win the game, but I don't see them winning by more than 7. I don't know your thoughts on that, but they've been up and down, and who knows what's going to happen, who's going to show up. But 7 points is a lot for the Chiefs, and the Bengals. They just came off a loss from the Steelers, but they're still in it. They're 8-7. They're still in it. I mean, I can see the Chiefs winning, but maybe by like a field goal.
No, you're right. I like it. I think Chiefs home field advantage doesn't seem to mean much to them. They were at home and lost to the Raiders. So, like you said, getting Chase back. I don't know if they win, but covering 7 seems definitely possible. So I like that. I like both of those picks.
Yes, sir.
I've got my work cut out for me here. Oh man.
Yeah, there's some tough boys.
There are some tough ones. Geez, like I'm having trouble looking at the lock here. I kind of want to go Houston, but it just all depends on whether or not Stroud is back. I don't feel as confident if he's not under center.
Neither do I.
I can't touch Dolphins Ravens as much as I want to pick the Ravens. Dolphins could play with them. Cowboys Lions is going to be a great game. Bills Patriots
awesome game.
Too much of the spread. Bears Falcons I can't stand. Colts Raiders I can't stand. I'm inclined to go Jags over Panthers, and 7 points. The Jags.
I hope you do that because when they don't win, I hope you do that. So when they don't cover, I can give you some crap.
Give me crap, or I'm not gonna give you crap, but they have to beat the Panthers, who are just lifeless. The Jags need a win in the worst way, so I'm going Jags, and I'm going -7. If they don't cover,
all right. So
shame on them. So
far, our locks are the same, -7. So far, we both got -7, so that's interesting.
Yeah, yep. And you got +7 for the upset. So I don't know. I don't see another 7 on the card here, but let me think here. Who do I like for the upset? I don't really like the Saints on the road against the Bucks.
There is one that I'm looking at right here, but I don't know if you want to touch it.
I don't like Giants Rams. Let me see. I don't like the Steelers on the road at the Seahawks. Broncos Chargers, that's ugly. I don't know. Are you looking at Packers Vikings? I don't like that either.
I'm looking at the Lions +6 against the Cowboys.
Yeah, Dallas is just so damn good at home.
They really are. I know, but the Lions are good, man.
I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do something interesting here.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna go against the grain.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna go against the grain, opposite of what I just did, and I'm gonna go Dolphins +4.
Oof. Ouch. I got them. Yeah. Okay. +4. Yeah. I got 3.5.
Is that what you have?
+4. You. No, I got 3.5. You take +4. Take +4, the bigger one. Wow. Okay.
I think they'll keep this close. We saw that they could beat a good team in the Cowboys last week.
It was also at home, though. Don't forget.
Yeah, I know it was at home, but I think the Ravens, everything went right. They beat up on San Fran this week. I could see the Dolphins, exploiting them a little bit. Maybe they'll probably watch some tape. I imagine of the game between the Ravens and San Fran and see how they could find a way to beat them. But I'm going out on a limb there. I'm going out on a limb.
I like it. I like
Yeah.
it. I don't think it's going to happen, but I like it.
Yeah. So, but 2 hours on the mark, my man. I apologize for
Killed it.
making you come a little late, and for our listeners,
Hey,
we're a little
it's no
bit
big
later
deal.
than usual. This was Grossi and Dauber after dark, you could say. But
Oh,
we-
yeah,
we
buddy. Hell
came
yeah.
here. We didn't want to skip a week. This is important to us. We hope it's important to you guys.
We came, saw, we conquer. As they say, we came, we saw, we conquered.
Exactly. And what are we, 14 episodes in? As Dan mentioned, this is the last one before the new year. Hoping to continue this thing into the new year. We'll be coming every Tuesday as we have been around the same time. Hell of a journey for us starting this in the back half of this year. Been a lot of fun. Wish everybody a wonderful, safe, happy new year. Continue the holiday season. And we're just I'm personally thrilled to be here. Dan, I know you
So
are
am I.
too.
I'm loving
Yeah.
it. So we'll see all the lovely listeners in 2024.
100%. We got a lot of good stuff to continue to talk about. We talked about NFL wrapping up the season. We got a couple bowl games we'll be talking about, and we'll still be in the thick of NBA and NHL season. So that's a wrap. We're putting a bow on 2023. This was another episode of Overtime Sports Show. You guys all know how to reach us, how to find us. Please hit us up on all the social channels. Leave us a comment and all that stuff. Dan and I are really trying to push this through and reach new heights and uncharted waters in 2024. So going to be a good year for us. We hope it's a good year for all of you out there. But thanks for listening to us, and happy
Appreciate
holidays,
you.
happy New Year, everybody.
Happy
Peace
holidays.
out.
Happy New Year. We'll see you.
Ditto.
Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Everybody come see the greatest show. Everybody come, everybody come, everybody. Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all